All right, welcome back to another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. I'm Chris Driscoll. Joining me, as per usual, is my younger brother Matt Driscoll.
It's always a pleasure. Seems like, feels way shorter that we've potted because what day was it? Monday
It was
we did
Monday
the
night.
emergency
It
pod.
was Monday at midnight, so technically you could say it was Tuesday. Yeah.
So, that's just,
Right.
it's always better to pod as much as I can or as much as we can. So good feeling,
Absolutely.
good to be back.
Yep. Speaking of last week's pod, or no, sorry, not last week. Speaking of Monday's pod, I was questioning whether or not somebody wore the number 83. Someone did. Craig Smith, back in 2012 with the Portland Trail Blazers, wore the number 83. I feel like the Blazers are usually the ones with the weird numbers, which is funny because they don't really have. I don't think they have many retired numbers, but at least they shouldn't. At least they don't have any they have one championship. But this week, number 84, we have Ron Baker, who wore the number 19 with the Washington Wizards, and Chris Webber, actually, believe it or not. He wore the number 84 in 2007 with the Pistons. Was that 07? No, that wasn't. The 07, I think they lost to the Cavs in the conference finals. That's what the Pistons did in 07. So, that's the number 84. There's definitely some 84s that are in football that I'm not remembering. Obviously, it's a very wide receiver number, I'm sure. I'll do that really quickly, actually. NFL players to wear the number 84. At the very least, 85 and up are one. I don't know many.
84. Did Larry Donnell on the Giants wear number 84?
Who?
Larry
Donnell? Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Maybe. Here we go. 84. Okay, I don't know why the hell it doesn't. Okay, here we go. 84 on Pro Football Reference.
Theo Johnson wears 84 right now for the Giants.
Okay.
Let me see.
Oh, Roddy White and Randy Moss, two of, well, not Roddy White. Well, Randy Moss, like a top 3 receiver all time. Roddy White, he played receiver for the Falcons, I believe. Who's like the other all-time great defensive player? Is it Randy White that was like one of those? Is that his name? I don't know, but AB also wore the number 85 as 84 as well, so that's a big one. And then Shannon Sharp, never knew that he wore the number. Yeah, would have never gotten that.
Larry Donnell did wear 84, by the way.
He did. Okay. Is that it? That as far as I know, yeah, it looks like it is. Yeah, like obviously there's a couple others that I'm sure that would come up. But yeah, those are the big ones that I knew of. And yeah, and I have no idea which New York Mets were, or even any other baseball player, where we're starting to run a little thin on baseball players. We're getting pretty thin on basketball players, obviously, too. But yeah, we're looking forward to starting episode 100, where we'll start doing the birthdays in a little bit. But yeah, we got an awesome show ahead of us. Those of you that are watching live, we got 13 viewers so far. You also might be keeping track of the NBA draft. Yeah, we figured since it's the second round, not many people would be watching. We're just gonna live stream like we would regularly, but we are going to. We probably won't announce every single pick, but we will likely we'll announce pick 31 and then pick 32 as well, because it's the Celtics. After that's probably not much unless like a big trade goes down, which again, not likely, but it could happen for sure. Like we'll probably only have like five or six picks by the time it's the end of the pod. Actually, that's not true. Maybe like 7 or 8, depending on how much time each pick goes into it. But we had a lot of trade backs already, so looking forward to an awesome show today. But first, before we talk about that, this is the first actual pod that we've had since the NBA Finals. As we mentioned, we did the emergency pod, which was 18 minutes long. That's kind of what's the word? There's no set rules as to how long podcasts are supposed to be, but definitely the quickest podcast that we've done, and I don't know if it's the quickest podcast I've ever listened to. I think that Kenny Beecham on his individual pod went like shorter one time in like a post game show, but yeah, not many pods go 18 minutes long. If our dad, Mr. Driscoll, has the same standards for a podcast as he does with going to graduation and or mass, he would probably appreciate the shorter pods as well. But
probably would have been his favorite episode.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe. Well, yeah, I don't even know if he listened to it, but maybe he did. Although I did start putting up all the episodes on Spotify, so yeah, those will become a little bit easier for him. So Yeah, speaking of which, we're also live streaming off the All American Hooper channel as well, just because we wanted to see. We wanted to like drive as much traffic as possible to every channel. So that's I think we're going to start doing that more often now. But yeah, again, okay, we sidebarred a lot there. Yeah, this is the first episode since first actual episode since the NBA Finals. So we'll talk about that real quick. Our older brother John will be joining us eventually. But yeah. So first we will talk about the finals. So the Thunder won on Sunday night. Their first ever NBA title with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winning Finals MVP, which wraps up an all-time great season for him. People have different notes, rankings as to where it finishes all time. Not many players in NBA history have won MVP and Finals MVP in the same season. Not many people won the scoring title on top of that, and obviously there's the Conference Finals MVP, which those that are on the list would have already on the list would have probably won Finals MVP. Conference Finals MVP in addition, but that's no guarantee, obviously. But it also wraps up an all-time great season for the Thunder as well. Thunder won 68 games this year and the title. They did go to 2 Game 7s, which so did the 08 Boston Celtics, and many people consider them an all-time great team. So I'm very confident to say that the Thunder are an all-time great team as well. But Matt, any takeaways on the Thunder's title, their first title ever? That was won on Sunday night.
Yeah, I was going to touch on what you said. Like the Thunder are literally one of the best teams we've ever seen. I know during the regular season, obviously they dominated, and we kind of expected that in the postseason, and they kind of got tested more than I expected them to, especially once the Celtics got eliminated. And I didn't expect the Nuggets to take them to 7 games. I didn't expect them the Pacers to take to 7 games. However, I mean, they set a couple of crazy records. I'm just reading it off here. They were plus 259, which is the best home differential, plus minus in a single playoff run. They had the best turnover differential in a single playoff run at plus 131. They had the best record after a loss in a single NBA season at 19-2, and they had the best point differential in a single season as well as at plus 1,247. So truly an all-time great team. One of the best teams ever, and Shai had one of the best seasons ever. I mean, I know he gets a lot of slack for his quote unquote foul baiting and his style of play, but you can't take away the season from him. Finals MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, regular season MVP on a 68 win team, and a hyper efficient scoring title as well. So a lot of credit to the Thunder. They were the best team all year, and they deserve to win.
Absolutely. Yeah, like pretty much every single stat backs it up that the Thunder are one of the best teams of all time. I'm one of the people that had them losing in the second round to the Clippers, mainly because of matchups. But once the Clippers lost, I knew the Thunder were going to run through the West, and once the Celtics were eliminated, I had them running through the entire league as well. But so shout out to the Thunder, but also want to give a shout out to the Indiana Pacers as well for fighting tooth and nail. I think that's the quote. Every single step of the way. Obviously, first round going up against Giannis, debatably the best player in the league, totally closed the door on them. Then after that, going up against the 64 win Cavs, they just totally outclassed them the entire way. Donovan Mitchell played awesome for the first 3 games, and despite that, the Pacers still totally outclassed them in every other way. That's especially down the clutch, and then also the magical Knicks run that they were on. They had like the entire media and world on their side, but the Pacers found a way to again have that amazing comeback when they were down 9 with a minute left. And what is it? Yeah, down 9 with a minute left in the game, something like that. Come back then, and then win the series again, and then game 1 of the finals, stealing that game and staying with the Thunder the entire time. Yeah, they eventually went down 3-2. They went up 2-1, and then they lost 2 games in their own. And right when it looked like it was the 2015 and 2022 finals, to where the better and more established team figured out the other team, but the Pacers found a way to win Game 6 again, and unfortunately, their magical run ended in the worst way possible with their star player Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles. But even in spite of that, the Pacers still found a way. I don't want to say found a way, but it was like the analogy that I like to use is like when you're taking out, not taking out, is when you're finishing up a bottle of toothpaste and they just pushed until they were pretty much done with everything, and unfortunately they ran out of toothpaste by like the middle of the third quarter, where the Thunder took over and they just showed they were just a much better team at the end of the day. The Pacers were the older team, despite being like probably like a little less experienced, besides outside of Siakam and Rick Carlisle. But the Thunder they were just way too talented, and it was not enough for the Pacers to overcome at the end of the day, especially with Halliburton tearing his ACL. So Matt, what are your? I pretty much I gave I basically just laid out the entire plot of the Pacers. But do you have anything else you want to add for that?
I mean, the Pacers time and time again showed us that they were not what like you called it a magical run, which it was, but I think more so they were just, a very, very great team.
Mm-hmm.
They were super. I mean, the Thunder had 84 wins this season. It's the second most, tied for the second most ever in an NBA season. And the Pacers were really right there with them. They were a very evenly matched team. They kind of turned something around halfway through the season. And total credit to the Pacers. They almost won with their best player out. How many minutes he played? 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So credit to the Pacers. I mean, they're young. Halliburton's only 25, even if he misses all the next year, which is obviously a very hard pill to swallow, tough pill to swallow. They will be back. This core is the duo of Siakam and Halliburton is legit, and the core, a lot of young guys are just great surrounding pieces, and obviously the world coach. So this isn't the last we'll see of the Indiana Pacers.
I don't think so either. But yeah, I'm interested to see what their process is. I do believe that most of their core will be able to stay. I think that the only piece I think that's debatable is Turner. How much they're going to be willing to spend on him. But I do think that they're gonna give him a lot of money. He obviously, out of these eligible for the max. He doesn't have any accolades, but like he's like I think they're gonna give him what he wants at the end of the day. He's a homegrown player, and a lot of people called him like an empty stats guy as far as it goes for his blocks and his 3-point percentage. But he's been he's been pretty great this year. So he was pretty great for like obviously he had some pretty rough games, and where Carlisle did a great job of taking him out in certain moments. But for the most part, he was very solid and a great veteran leader, showing exactly what it means to be Pacers. So great on him. But I think eventually the Pacers are going to be back. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what their approach is going to be next offseason. I have a very hard time believing that they're just going to totally tank. But at the end of the day, I do believe that the Pacers are going to be a very interesting team. But yeah, before we move on to the overall draft, I would like to welcome our older brother, John Driscoll, on the stage. John, thanks for joining us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Sorry I'm so late. I had a couple things to do around here. I was studying for a test, and then another curveball got thrown my way, believe this or not. I get home, and there's a package right outside my apartment door. It's from NYU Langone Hospital. And I ordered some T-shirts a little while back. I thought they were just like, I ordered for some like shady Chinese company, as we all do.
Okay.
I thought it was just like they just used that box for some reason. I don't know. It was a long day. I was just thinking that way. Then I open the box and there's a ice pack on it, and then I look outside on the outside of the box and it says like time sensitive, like freezer. So I don't know what was delivered to me. So I start getting a little nervous. Obviously, like closed it back up. I taped it back up. And then I noticed there was a phone number on it. So I gave the girl who was a call. Apparently she used to live here. And they accidentally delivered it. But it started smelling a little weird. So I put it back outside my apartment. And apparently they're coming up to re-deliver it to her. But hopefully that's the end of my experience with this box. And hopefully my T-shirts get here tomorrow.
All right.
Long story short, thanks for having me on. Excited to talk a lot about some hoops. What have we covered so far?
we covered the NBA Finals so far, and basically talked about what an all-time great season was for the Thunder, what an all-time great run it was for the Pacers. Yeah, John, if you want to add any, say anything about either team, about whichever, you can give your thoughts on that if you want.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll say. I think we're all pretty much on the same page. The Thunder, all-time great team, 68 wins. Didn't have the dominant playoff run that you could have thought they would have, or they, I guess was expected. But it's hard to have dominant playoff runs, especially in the West.
Mhm.
So all credit to them. I think I've seen a couple people talk about how much they dislike watching them play, whether it's how they play offensively or what they get away with on the defensive end. I happen to agree in a certain way. I don't think that really takes away so much what they did, but I think you can have that opinion that maybe they weren't exactly the most fun or, as we love to say, ethical there. But that's all I really have for the Thunder. In terms of the Pacers, I mean, what a run! All the credit to them. I think they proved a lot of people wrong. They did it without like a bona fide superstar. I know we said that Halliburton was a superstar a lot, but I don't know. It was a really fun run. Really enjoyed watching the Pacers. Unfortunate that Halliburton went down. Kind of ruined what I thought was going to be an all-time great Game 7. But other than that, that's really all I have to say about the finals.
Pete Alonso I think he just pimped a single. Hit
for
the
him.
wall and he only got to first. Trying to see what happened. Sorry.
That's very nice. Definitely agree with all that, John. And yeah, pretty much. It looks like. Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. As I mentioned in the beginning, we're likely going to announce at certain points when certain picks are in. That's definitely going to include pick 32, which the Celtics own. Do you guys have a name in mind as to who you want them to pick?
Matt, you can
Ryan.
take one, I'll take the other. Yeah.
Ryan Kalkbrenner. He's the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East from Creighton. Obviously, we watch more Big East basketball than any other conference. It's not even close for me. And he's a stud. He's a very, very good player. But John, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that I recently realized a guy that I work with. His name's Finn. He's a big Celtics fan. I think he might be from the Mass, Connecticut area. Really, really great guy, but a big Celtics fan. We talked about the Celtics cap a lot recently, so he pays attention. He's a true fan. I told him how much I respect Kalkbrenner just because of how much, as St. John's fans, we watched him this year. He was dominant. He was, St. John's was a team who didn't like to shoot threes. They liked to shoot mid-range and put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. And he was one of those players that prevented them from doing that. So you got to give him respect. I did find out, however, he's a big UConn fan because he's from that area. So, it's, he probably has more of a valid reason to be a Celtics fan than we do, honestly, that way. But it goes to show you how, not just St. John's fans, it wasn't just like him dominating against one team all year. He kind of dominated the Big East for all of his entire career. So he'd be really exciting. I think he's more of like a pro-ready now guy than this guy Maxime Renaud. I don't know if he's like French and I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm pronouncing it like an American. But I think Renaud is more of like, from what I can tell, is like a prospect with a higher ceiling in a sense. He's like 7 feet, 7'1". He moves. He's really agile. He's a lot more athletic. I think for a 7'1" guy, he's a pretty decent facilitator as well. I've heard his name floated out there as a potential Al replacement. So, those are two guys that I have had in mind. Knowing that, I'm sure Brad will come and draft some point guard out of Slovenia or something like that. But I think with the questions surrounding if they're bringing back Al or Cornette, if they can afford to, I think it's, you never want to draft for a need, but this might be the situation where you do so.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But it looks like I'm watching it on Hulu now, and I would share my screen. However, a couple months ago on NBA Max, Fluent actually shared his screen during the All-Star game and actually got banned from YouTube. So I'm not going to take that risk because I can afford it slightly less than he could. So it doesn't look, and I haven't seen any tweets regarding it yet either. So interested to see. Although just did see a tweet actually, but I'm not going to say who it is. I'll say it once it's announced on the television. But I definitely like a center for sure. But like I'm very interested to see, and this could be a segue. This could be actually it's not gonna be a segue because I want to talk about the other teams draft first. But like, depending on what the Celtics do with their cap, like if they end up trading Tillman and who's the and Yang for picks to like another team who could who could use like if they need to like spend like amount of money, like that includes the Nets, it includes the Jazz, teams that need to spend money. I don't know what their idea is though. But I'm very interested to see what happens. But are you guys seeing this?
The pick? I got it on Twitter.
I have it. I guess my Hulu TV on my laptop is a little delayed.
Okay. But yes. So I'm not going to say who the pick is, but I will be saying that the Celtics are trading pick number 32 to the Orlando Magic for number 46 and 57. Sorry, for number 46, number 57, and a 2026 second rounder and a 2027 second rounder. So did they just get 4 second round picks for one? Is my question.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I could say that I'm fine with that because I think it's very clearly states that Brad Stevens doesn't love whoever is up next. Like I'm sure he likes a couple of guys, but he doesn't really love them, so he might as well have options for the second round. But yeah, the guy is Noah Penda, by the way, is his name. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Like this is pretty surprising to me. I wasn't expecting this to happen.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting it either. I think we're all aware of the front court depth that the Celtics need. But I think it almost goes to show you that how much they really can't afford to pay. I don't know what the difference is in, I guess, expected pay from a 32nd to a 46th pick, but it has to be relatively substantial, right? I think that's why I didn't trade up. I heard there were rumors that they were trying to trade up in the first round yesterday, but I don't really know if they could afford, trading up to pick 14 and then paying that pick 14 and not really knowing how it would turn out. So it's interesting. I think it's as fans, it's like a little disappointing or underwhelming in a sense because you want to bring in like a young, exciting player that if you draft at pick 32 has a chance of making the roster, has a chance of getting a little burn. But I think, we all trust in Brad. We know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. So, I think it's just they're so hamstrung by this cap stuff. It's hard to move away from it.
Yeah, I think sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was going to say, I think like this is kind of surprising because I thought that if they were going to trade a pick, like John said, they would either trade up in the first round yesterday or trade the first pick that they have for something. I didn't expect them to trade 32, especially all the rumors we've been hearing about the Celtics linked to this guy. Usually those are incorrect. Usually they move pretty silently. But I'm kind of surprised.
So Dan Greenberg of Barstool Sports tweeted out 20 minutes ago. He said, 18 minutes ago, he said, "What if Brad traded down and went with this dude?" And tweeted a highlight reel of Rocco Zikarsis, who played in the NBL. Looks like he is he's 7'2" Australian-born big man. So that could be very interesting for sure. But who knows what he has in mind. But the Magic just gave out four first round picks for Desmond Bane, and they gave out 4 second round picks. However, Shams just tweeted, over the next 7 years, Orlando still owns 4 first round picks and 9 second rounders. They send a 2026 most favorable over second round to Detroit, Milwaukee, Orlando, and the 2027 is most favorable over of Orlando and Boston. So, very interesting move to say the least. At the end of the day, 4 second rounders is very pleasing, and unless any of these 32 to 46 round picks turns into a Hall of Famer, I'm pretty pleased with this deal, I'd say.
Yeah, Shams said on live draft coverage that I'm told the Celtics were going to take Rasheer Fleming, who was the 31st pick from St. Joe's. So
Okay.
they probably had their eyes set on him, and then once they found out he was being drafted, traded out.
That makes sense. Cool. All right. But speaking of which, we did mention that they didn't trade out of the first round. So, Matt, did you maybe with their 28th pick, they did take Hugo Gonzalez. Who I'll get my point on him last. Yeah, Matt, why don't you give your thoughts on him?
Well, to be completely honest, I really didn't do any research on Hugo Gonzalez before the draft. I mean, we saw old tweets from beginning of the year where he was projected to be a lottery pick. One guy had him in his top 5. But the team he was playing on in Madrid didn't had a ton of old NBA players. They had, I think, 10 ex-NBA players, including Serge Ibaka, and they had one of the best EuroLeague players of all time on their team. So he didn't get a lot of run. I think he only averaged 5 points this year. But Brad likes his intangibles. He said he plays hard. He makes cuts. He knows the game. It's kind of a cliche, but he plays it the right way, quote unquote. So, I mean, obviously it's not like a flashy pick, but we'll see. We'll see if he cracks the rotation this year.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I didn't do any research on him ahead of time, and once I box score watched before I looked at the highlight reel, and I said, "Oh, what are we doing here?" But yeah, like deep down, I always knew that like Brad Stevens knows the most as far as it goes for evaluating players. He doesn't have a great history yet as far as it goes for drafting players. Was this his 3rd year drafting? I want to say maybe his 4th. But he didn't. Yeah, last year was his 1st year drafting any first round players. It was pick number 30 with Baylor Shireman, and this is the 2nd pick he's done. I don't know if Hugo Gonzalez is going to crack the rotation. I do think the Baylor Shireman is going to get a good amount of run this year with Tatum's injury, and with Brown probably going to miss a little bit of time too, as far as he might be load managing his knee. But like as far as at the very least, Gonzalez has a lot of potential. If people were saying that he was going to be a borderline lottery pick at the beginning of the year, John, what are your thoughts on Gonzalez?
I think you guys know in our Celtics group chat last night, I requested that I put my hater hat on real quick. I think that was fueled mostly by the fact that I stayed up until 11:30 at night just for Brad to draft some guy who can't order a drink in America from Spain. And then, you see the average like 3.4 points per game. That's, it's not exciting in the moment. It's not encouraging in the moment, but I don't know. It's once you kind of put that in the in the rear view, and I guess you dive deeper into the details. You realize, like Matt mentioned, he was kind of deep back on the depth chart because of how much talent there was on that team. And Brad loves drafting these guys that have the different intangibles. He plays hard, plays good defense. He's long, he's tall. I actually watched a clip from the First to the Floor podcast about a week ago. They were saying, they kind of identified a couple of Celtics picks that could be available at 28, and they referenced Hugo Gonzalez. They said, guys like 6'8", 6'9", and they said if this guy gets a jump shot, which I think we say about a lot of players sometimes, it's not really exactly easy to do so. But if this guy gets a jump shot, he could be an all-star. Not that we're expecting that, but I think he plays with good pace. From the highlight tapes that I've watched. After sleeping on it, I'm excited about the pick. And I think the main factor of me not being too excited about it initially was that it felt in the moment kind of like a draft and stash kind of thing, where we expected, and I think he can, be a player where you bring him over to Boston and he can eventually be a rotational piece or a piece that comes off the back end of the bench in a way. So overall, I'm excited. And it'll be fun to watch him. Hopefully, he plays in the summer league. Gives us to watch the summer league this year, right?
And I definitely, I definitely think that this is someone that Brad Stevens likes too a lot. I do think that, I also think that if Brad knew that he didn't really love any of the first round players, that he would have traded back. He's obviously shown tonight and last year and the year before that that he's not afraid to trade back. But he didn't do that last night, and it would have saved him. It probably would have saved him a couple bucks. I don't know, actually don't know how much money it would have saved in general. But yeah, he decided not to do that because I guess he's very confident in Gonzalez and I have full faith in Brad's ability to evaluate the players there. But yeah, that's enough Celtics talk for now. We're definitely gonna rip them back in when we go back to the offseason talk. But I do want to stay with the draft for now because this is only round 2. Speaking of which, the Hornets just drafted Sion. Like, it was on the TV, by the way. Yes, so I'm not just breaking news from Shams. The Hornets drafted Sion James from Duke with the 33rd pick in the draft. Could have sworn they were going to go with the big. He's a small forward, I believe. But yeah, it's definitely a need that they need to address, but they haven't yet. Yusuf Nurkic is now their starting center without Mark Williams. So I don't know. I don't know what the Hornets are doing. I think that the Hornets are a top 3 worst run team in basketball. I don't know, but I don't know. They're very low on my list though. But yeah, let's talk about the winners. How about this? Let's talk about the winners and the losers of the draft so far. John, why don't you give your biggest winner of the NBA draft so far?
I have a couple. If you want me to get the ball rolling.
I have a couple. I mean, it's just like the obvious. Like the Mavericks getting Cooper Flag is magnificent. I think, bias aside, I think he's going to be a generational player. We all watched him at Duke. He was like a man amongst boys, and he was 18. It seems like he has that almost that extra level to him where we've seen guys in college or come up through high school and college. We've seen big guys. We've seen big guys who are explosive, who can score, who can rebound, defend. It seems like he has that extra little bit about him, almost and I'm not relating him to LeBron James, but it's in a way where he sees the game a little bit slower. A lot of guys who can score and defend and rebound at that level do not play make at that level. And I think that's what makes him so valuable. And we can talk about Cooper Flag until we're blue in the face, and I think we'll probably be doing that for the next 20 years on this podcast. But I will say I'm gonna pick 2 guys in the top 3 because that's the easiest way to do it. But I think VJ Edgecombe is a top tier player in this draft. He another guy who plays both sides of the ball. I think the Sixers got a really really great player. And regardless of what happens with Embiid, I think that's a guy. Edgecombe could be a guy you build your team around. But yeah, I would say those are my winners of the draft. I think it's tough to pick winners without being the top team picked this really good player. But that's just off the top of my head, that's what I'm thinking.
My winner is the San Antonio Spurs. A lot of people on Twitter are saying this. Dylan Harper Jr. is just an absolute stud. Or not Jr., it's his brother's Ron Harper Jr. Dylan Harper's an absolute stud. We saw him put up crazy number at Rutgers. Ace Bailey's numbers without Dylan Harper were a little sketchy as well, so he makes other people, other NBA talent, play better with him. And then they got Carter Bryant out of Arizona. And everybody seems to love this pick. He has a 7-foot wingspan. His idol is Tumani Kamara from the Trailblazers. It's just an absolute stud on defense. So Wemby Muse on Twitter tweeted this out. The wingspans of the Spurs core. Wembanyama is 8 feet, which is crazy. Jeremy Shohan, 7 feet. Carter Bryant has a 7-foot wingspan. Dylan Harper has a 6'10" wingspan. Devin Vassell has a 6'10" wingspan. Johnson 6'9", Castle 6'9", and Fox has a 6'6" wingspan. So they're going to be a long defensive team, so annoying to score on.
They all play defense.
They all play defense. The Spurs are going to be a very, very fun watch. They might be. I think it's a little different because the Rockets don't have a player like Victor Wembanyama, but they might be like a Rockets next year where they make a jump into the playoffs and they surprise a lot of people with their record from the regular season.
I just criticized the Hornets for being a bad run team, and then Matt, they just took your pick, Ryan Kalkbrenner, for them. So that'll be interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have an interesting team for sure. Yeah, obviously LaMelo, Brendan Miller, and Ryan Kay are going to be the 3 young guys. And obviously Charles Lee has a young quarter on. I still think they should trade LaMelo, but trading injury prone players is always easier said than done. Matt, I definitely agree with your Spurs take. They're going to be so good for so long. I thought maybe for a second that they should have traded Fox and like 1 or 2 other pieces for Durant, but I definitely think I'm definitely confident in the current core that they have. The Fox, Harper, Castle lineups may be a weird fit at first, but I do think that teams. Obviously it depends on the lineup period that you run, but when you have Wemby running your 5, you can afford for your 1 through 3 to be a little small. So. Especially when all 3 of them are very. I actually don't know how good Harper is at defense. I don't know if that was on a scouting report, but yeah, I at very least know that Fox and Castle are good to great defenders, so you can afford to have a small 1 through 3. So
and Castle's
I don't know.
6'6", you know, it's 6'6". It's not like, you know. I understand what you mean though. Like he's not like you don't have a 6'8" guy at your 2, but like he's not like a 6'2" guy.
Right. Yeah. So, I don't know if all the Spurs are going to be this year. I do think that Wemby is going to be a top 10 player. Which I'm going to keep on subtly mentioning throughout the summer. My top 100 list, I've already done 1 through 34, which there are some questionable parts of the list, which I'm going to be asking for feedback in the Celtics group chat multiple times throughout the year. Throughout the summer, I should say, not throughout the year. Now that we mentioned all the winners, I think there's really only
another winner. Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, you can give me one.
We mentioned them. The Hornets, I think, are a big winner after this draft. After that,
are they really?
Pick.
Yeah. Is just because of that, or
Con Kneppel at 4.
Okay.
Con Kneppel at 4, and then at let me see, 29, they got Liam McNeely.
I forgot that the 4th pick as well.
I really wanted McNeely in a way.
Yeah.
You know?
A pick after the Celtics. He was a stud at UConn last. John, you can ask your work buddy about him, but I mean, the times I watched him.
He said I wanted him.
And the guy they just drafted from Duke with the 33rd pick, Sion James, was Con Kneppel's teammate in college. Okay. So vibes are pretty high there. So
you pair them with Brandon Miller, which I think, in my opinion, maybe this is just bias. I would build around Brandon Miller.
Absolutely, I don't think that's. I think that's a great take.
I would trade LaMelo Ball.
LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges are 2 of my least favorite players in the league. So like that's probably why I have such a bias against the Hornets for 2 very different reasons. By the way, LaMelo Ball is probably a much better person than Miles Bridges. But
a ton for LaMelo Ball.
I don't know how much you can, honestly. He's very injury prone and he has a pretty ugly contract. So I don't know how much you can get back for LaMelo Ball.
He has an ugly contract?
I think so. Yeah. They had to pay him a couple summers ago. Hang on. So let me check that real quick. Actually,
he gave you 25-7-4 though.
He doesn't play, and he plays bad
defense.
Like
30 games. He plays horrible defense. He plays a losing style of basketball. However, I don't think they. Yeah, he's very young. I don't think Hornets will handle this correctly because they haven't handled anything correctly in their past. But they got some young guys they could build around. They got hope. This is the first time they had hope for a fun team in a while.
Let me ask you this. I always butcher this. Did Scoot go before Brandon Miller, or did Brandon Miller go before Scoot?
Brandon
Miller went 2.
Yeah.
Before Scoot?
Yes.
Yeah, because Shams tweeted that Scoot was going to go second.
So that's right. That's a win from the Hornets.
I agree.
I think we all sat on this podcast before that draft, and we were like, you go with like the big wing who is like versatile over the explosive guard.
Yeah. John, I also I forgot to I forgot to add on to your point out. Like in my mind, 100 somewhere else, but very nice of you to assume that the podcast is going to still be here in 20 years. We'll see. Yeah,
Oh, it is.
Yeah, maybe it might be named something else besides the All American Noobs. We might have to make some adjustments between now and then, but we'll see.
Wait until we have one of our kids on here.
Absolutely. We'll see how old they are, but when they come on. But yeah, LaMelo's owed this year. He's owed 38 million. 2027 he's owed 40.7. 2028 43.5, and 2029 46.4. So it is pretty thick. I don't know if we get a fully healthy season from LaMelo. Like when he's healthy, he's an all NBA caliber player. As far as it goes for his numbers, I don't know impact wise how good he is. But it'll be very, very interesting for sure to see how he fits in with. I shouldn't say fits in. I should say how the young players fit in with him. I should say because it's his team for now. But Sixers just took Johnny Broom. I have no idea who that is.
Janiah Broom from Auburn.
He's from Auburn, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Came in second to Cooper Flag for Player of the Year.
He was SEC Player of the Year, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
good for them. Drafted.
What is he? Is he forward or a big?
He's a center.
Yeah.
Very athletic center.
He's a center. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that'll be a good
backup.
backup.
Will be a 4 in the NBA though.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. It'd be good like stretch 5 to Embiid. And yeah, when Embiid inevitably needs a breather. Cool. All right. We've covered. Even though we're all excited for the draft, I don't think we're gonna be here until pick number 46. But for the Celtics,
I will say I just realized this. This is an interesting draft because there are only 59 picks this year.
Who got the pick removed?
The Knicks.
Oh,
why is
that? Was that Brunson or was it something else? Or was it Bridges?
December 21st, 2022, the NBA announced that the Knicks violated league rules governing the timing of this season's free agency discussions, and the league has rescinded New York's own second-round pick in the 2025 draft. The Knicks engaged free agency discussions involving Jalen Brunson prior to the date when such discussions were permitted.
See, I'm not gonna laugh at that because at the time,
we should eliminate their playoff success this year then too.
Yeah, I agree. No, I always feel like such a piece of crap though because I literally made a TikTok right after that punishment was announced saying like imagine having to lose draft rights because you went after Jalen Brunson, like laughing off Jalen Brunson as if he didn't turn into a top 12 player ever since then. But yeah, like obviously, yeah, it was worth it for the Knicks, and I didn't think it was at the time. Cool. All right. I think there's only one loser on the. I won't say one loser. There's probably more than one, but I think the biggest loser out of the draft is the New Orleans Pelicans. What the hell are they doing? They traded up for I forgot the guy's name. And then they lost next year's draft pick. I don't know what the Pelicans are expecting. They're not going to be good next year. So I don't know why you're giving up any type of draft capital unless you're getting a star player. Unless this is bad podcasting for me. Unless like the guy who they drafted to trade up from the Hawks, who I think is a winner by the way, is the Hawks. I forgot to mention them. Unless you're trading up.
Queen was the one.
Queen. Yeah, and unless Queen becomes like an all-star like superstar caliber player, I don't think it's worth it. I think the Pelicans are going to be a bad team next year, given their injuries and given how weird the roster is constructed. Trey Murphy and Herb Jones are two awesome players, and I think Zion is one of the 20 best players in the league when he's fully healthy. So yeah, they have some solid pieces, but their construction and their availability issues, I just don't trust at all. But yeah, maybe Jordan Poole's going to be better than people expect, but I don't know. Yeah, like
are they going to trade DeJounte Murray?
Did they?
They drafted Jeremiah Fears out of Oklahoma. He's a point guard. He's only like 6'3". I don't know. I feel like the Pelicans, it's weird. Like if you look at like the players, like if you pulled up their depth chart and like blocked out what team it was, and you just like looked at individual players on that team, you'd be like, good player, good player, good player. You know, it's weird because Trey Murphy's a really good player. Zion's obviously great, but he just can't stay healthy. DeJounte Murray is not what he used to be. I still think he's a good player though.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bruce Brown, again, overpaid, not what he used to be, but like not a bad player. And then Herb Jones, like I think very good player, like for what his contract is. So I just think they're like there's no like goal or like theme to their roster. It's just like a bunch of like you could say good
Mix and
players in
match.
the right like situation, but they're all in the wrong one.
Yeah, I don't know what the Pelicans are doing, Chris. I totally agree that, trading up 10 spots and giving up your unprotected first I mean, Derek Queen was one of my favorite players coming into the draft. I think I'm a little biased because I went to school in Maryland and in Baltimore where he's from, even though he went to school in Florida, like he was still talked about in Baltimore about being he could make it to the NBA type guy. And he's a young guy, he's a center. Obviously at that moment in March Madness, the buzzer beater. Um, so I'm a big fan of him. I thought the Spurs were going to get him at 14. But the Hawks traded up 10 spots for him. So clearly they wanted him. Sorry, the Pelicans traded up 10 spots for him. So clearly they wanted him. Clearly they see something, but I don't know. I wouldn't give up an unprotected first if I'm not going to be in the playoffs next year or not be a contender, not just in the playoffs, not be a contender next year.
Like you could look at their depth chart right now. Like I would bet that they're a bottom 10 team more than a playoff team.
Yeah.
That's without question.
Unless Zion rattles off like a 78 game season, which if he does that, they probably make the playoffs because he's that good. But he's not playing more than 50 games.
I had the Pelicans ranked at 13, by the way, in my way too early power rankings is in the West. Only ahead of the Jazz and the Suns. So speaking of which, moving on, the Lakers selected Adu Tiero from Arkansas. He played in Kentucky his first 2 seasons, and then Arkansas last year. He is a 6'6" guard, which is what the Lakers do not need now. I don't know if they liked any of the centers on the board or if they have other plans throughout the market, whether it be in free agency or even though the free agency market at center is awful, or I'm sure they're going to make a trade where they're probably going to trade Maxi Kleber and 2 second-round picks for Domantas Sabonis or something like that. But I don't know what the Lakers are doing. Obviously, when you have LeBron and Luka, you could do anything. However, we did just see a run where they had LeBron and Luka, and they just got completely outclassed by Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. I shouldn't say that because like the 2 of them play pretty well. It's just that the rest of their roster just wasn't enough for them because their bench sucked, and the Timberwolves depth it was one of their strongest things. So. Yeah, that's my little tangent on the Lakers. I was going to say we weren't going to announce every pick, but I've done a tangent for every single pick so far. But I think that's enough draft talk for now. But we can move on to we'll pivot back to the Celtics actually for now because we talked about the we talked about the draft. So now let's talk about the other offseason moves that the Celtics have made. So Monday night, Matt and I did an emergency pod after Drew. John was snoring while that was happening. But the Celtics traded Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks, and then the day after, less than 24 hours, the Celtics traded Kristaps Porzingis for gorgeous. I keep on saying his name wrong. Someone on TikTok made fun of me for saying gorgeous. What was his name? Georges Niang and. George. I think another second-round pick. So, Brad Stevens has been very, very active this offseason. He's acquired Niang, Simons, and 6 second-round picks. I think was the count. So, Matt, you got any takes about what the direction the Celtics are now?
Yeah, I think Brad Stevens said our biggest problem that we're facing right now is that our first team All-NBA players in a boot, and it's kind of weird that we kind of knew that this was going to happen. They were going to have to, shut off a couple of these big time contracts because the stupid second apron that Grant Williams and CJ McCollum put together. That we said it before, they deserve jail time, and I don't mean like a month. I mean serious. You're going to prison, jail time. That's what they deserve. So yeah, we knew that they were going to have to send off two-time champion Drew Holiday. We knew that they were going to have to somehow get rid of Porzingis, which even though he had no trade value, and I don't think they're done yet. I mean, I think they get off either a Sam Hauser contract or they don't re-sign Luke or Al. Like I think money-wise they have to do something else. And it stinks that they're still going to contend because, you still have Jaylen Brown on your team. You still have Derek White on your team, Peyton Pritchard. They still have guys that are very, very good NBA players. Jaylen Brown's a lead NBA player. Derek White's one of the best third options in the league, if not the best third option in the league. But Chris left. But without Tatum, you're not going to contend for a championship. So.
Yeah, as Chris said, I was unfortunately snoozing and missed the emergency pod with Drew Holiday. Really heart-wrenching that I missed that one. I tried to start this, go to sleep early and, wake up and feel better about myself thing. But after missing that Drew Holiday trade, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
Just to give my 2 cents on that, I'm sure, as like you guys said, very sad to see Drew go. He's, forever, tattooed as a great Celtic. It was only 2 short years, but he really left his impact. Celtics do not win the championship without him. KP, I am ecstatic that he is off my favorite basketball team. I think that I was initially upset about the return they got, but he's such a question mark. You really just don't know what his value is really. Although it's only 1 year, do you really want to have to pay $30 million for a guy who could probably has a chance to only play 25 games? You don't know. That being said, I'm in terms of Anthony Simons, excited to watch him play if the Celtics hold on to him. I'm hoping his defense kind of takes a little jump. But in terms of offensive efficiency and production, I think there's not many young two guards in the NBA like him. He shoots the ball at a pretty high clip, especially from the 3-point range. I think his true shooting percentage is around 56%. And in terms of the return they got for Kristaps, Georges Niang, he better be off the Celtics by next week because I will continue to complain about him if he is not.
By the way, actually, my favorite Laker fan to follow, a mutuals with this guy Calvin. We go back and forth on TikTok and Twitter, very respectfully. He has so far tweeted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times about how awesome the pick was. So yeah, he's a very typical Laker fans for thinking that every single player that they get is the best player in the world. But surprised that our views dipped so low.
John, the point guard from Marquette, Cam Jones, just got drafted.
Oh, nice.
To the Pacers. So we might get some run next year with no Halliburton. That's awesome.
All right, love that.
He's gonna course the Celtics.
Yeah,
yeah, I like Cam Jones a lot.
Yeah, he's great. I remember we went to I forget what game it was. It might have been I think it was the St. John's Marquette game that you guys went to late.
It was almost outside
of Cam Jones all day, and he got into foul trouble and kind of bailed out St. John's in a way. But he's an unbelievable player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, he had 30. Sorry, one more thing about Cam Jones. He had over 30 against St. John's the last game at Marquette, where Zuby Ejiofor hit the buzzer beater. I mean, he averaged 19, 5, and 6 assists. So, great player, very very great player.
Probably one of the better scorers in
the draft.
Brad trading back to take both RJ Lewis and Kadari Richmond at 46 and 57.
Chills.
Oh my God. Okay, so as of now, the Celtics' current depth chart is Derek White, point guard, Anthony Simons, 2 guard, Jaylen Brown, 3, Niang, 4, and Keita probably 5. I know most of them have said Tillman at the 5, but I think it'd be Keita. Their second unit, Payne Pritchard 1, Gonzalez 2, Sam Hauser 3, Barrel Shireman 4, Tillman 5. with the 11 and 12 man being Jordan Walsh and JD Davison, probably, unless there's someone else I'm missing. People saying that the Celtics need to, it's right. They should get rid of some salary, whether it be for Niang or whether it be or Tillman and Hauser, in order to make room for both Horford and Cornette would be phenomenal. The current roster they have is just so deflated that unless Sharman really takes a big jump to where he's a really solid rotational player. I was someone who said the Celtics should be better than people think they are, which I still do. I still think they're going to finish as a top 6 team in the East. They can't roll out with this team though, and I don't think they will. I think that Brad Stevens has a couple more moves up his sleeve. But it'll be very interesting for sure to see what moves they make. Although I tuned out there for a second, my internet first, so I don't know what you guys said about addressing whatever they have, but yeah, yeah. Is that it, or for Celtics to talk? Yeah. We talked a good amount about them, so it's fine if it is.
I think so. I think it's just I would really. I'm kind of split between really wanting them to get almost a pass first point guard to plug in, but I also kind of want to see Peyton run with it a little bit. I think it'll be fun to watch him in a PG1 kind of role.
Interesting. We have a couple minutes left. Actually, we have as much time left as we want, but I do want to fill up the hour. Yeah, I guess we can finish. We can take the rest of this time to talk about any other offseason moves that could potentially be made for any other team. I don't really know which teams you guys had in mind, but obviously, we talked a little bit about the Durant trade on Monday. We talked. We can also talk about the what other team are we missing? I feel like we're missing a team that made a move recently. I forgot who. This is really bad podcasting for me, by the way.
I have a couple more takes on the draft if you want to get into that.
Sure. Yeah. You can add for me for sure.
I think old Celtics GM Danny Ainge had a pretty good draft as well with the Utah Jazz.
That's right.
Ace Bailey. I mean, he seems like a diva, and definitely if he was a bust, it wouldn't surprise me, just because of the way he's been acting. But I mean, he clearly has the talent to be a star in the NBA. He was projected to go second before the season started. Then once his teammate passed him up, he was projected to go third. And so to get him at 5 is very impressive. And then they got Walter Clayton Jr. at 18, who just won a national championship and was the main reason why. So two very, very talented players. Obviously, the Jazz aren't in win now mode or contending at all. So it's just about developing them and seeing where they're at. But I thought that was a good draft for them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm really hoping that the Jazz turn things around soon because I'm a huge Will Hardy fan. I do think the Colin Sexton is pretty underrated as well. And always been a fan of Larry Markkinen. So they have the pieces, they just haven't been able to work. They haven't been able to figure it out together. So maybe Ace Bailey is that piece to turn them into a solid team, but they've just been bad for 2 years now, and I don't think it's Will Hardy's fault. I don't know whose fault it is. Maybe it's just the rest of the roster is pretty bad, but they have the pieces, and I like them, but I just don't. I feel like one thing is gonna have to go eventually. It might have to be Will Hardy. Maybe he needs a new change of scenery to a better team, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. Cool. But. Yeah, there's a couple other moves that are going to be made before the free agency starts on Monday. By the way, I'm sure that once we log off, there's going to be a massive trade made. Which I'm pretty sure the rules are 24. Yeah, you can't do 2 podcasts within 24 hours if one of them is emergency pod. I feel like that's pretty unethical. But yeah, so if the Celtics trade either Jaylen Brown or Derek White tonight, we unfortunately won't be doing an emergency pod for that. Oh yeah, that is one thing I wanted to talk about was the JB and Derek White situation. But yeah, we all agree. Don't trade either of those guys. That'd be very, very, very dumb.
People don't be overreacting.
I think Dan Greenberg kind of broke it down pretty well, even though we occasionally disagree with him. I think it's very infrequently that we disagree with him. I think he has very good Celtics takes. He's very locked in. But he put it best, the whole idea of like getting younger in a year that you're not going to win a championship, I think it's like a little flawed, you know? So like, let's say you traded Brown for number 2 overall and Stephon Castle and you draft Ace Bailey. And then next year it's just like Stephon Castle and Ace Bailey just, you know, having fun, you know, for lack of a better phrase, screwing around. And then in 2027, it's Jason Tatum with a rookie and a second-year player and a third-year player. Like, is that really going to contend for the finals? Like, I don't think so. I don't think – and if anything, if you're going to trade Brown or White, why would you not trade them, like, after or during a season where, like, their stats are inflated because Tatum's not there?
Yeah, it just makes zero sense to me. Obviously, the two priorities had I'm sure which I would have done. I'm sure that Brad Stevens would agree with me. Get under the second apron, make your roster more flexible, and make it so you have a roster that Jason Tatum can come back to in the offseason. No, sorry, not in the offseason, so that Jason Tatum could eventually come back to and say, we can win with this team. And in order for that to happen, he needs to be familiar with some of the players. So he needs at least 2 of those players there. He needs and I think those 2 players need to be Jaylen Brown and Derek White. I think that Brad traded the 2 right players. I think we can all agree with that. Porzingis was number 1, and out of Jalen, Drew, and White's, I think that given Holiday's age, a lot of people were saying that Brown's contract is why you would trade him, but I can't agree with that. I can't get aboard with that because I do think that as much as I love Derek White, I think that Jaylen Brown is untouchable because I think that picking a second option who could eventually take over whenever the first option is struggling and then win Finals MVP, those don't grow in trees. I think that Jaylen Brown is at worst a top 20 player. He's at his best is like a top 12, top 15 player. And you don't trade those guys unless you get. You need to get like another star player back and other pieces. You do not trade Jaylen Brown under any circumstance, in my opinion. Which I think is actually a good note to finish off. The Celtics probably aren't going to pick. Who's Mike? Do we know Micah Peavy, by the way?
Let me look. He just got drafted.
Yeah, by the Pelicans, who then traded it to the Wizards.
Oh, okay. I don't know Micah Peavy. What team was he on?
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. Okay,
Or
interesting.
Georgetown. Seems like both. Yeah, it looks
One
like
guy
last year.
said it was Georgetown.
Yeah.
I don't remember him.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll have to
Okay,
shoot Uncle Tony a text to see if he's familiar with who he is.
He averaged 17, 5, and 3 last year.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
6'8".
Yeah.
Okay,
I also know.
this guy.
Yeah. I also know that Greeny just said we're at almost 40, which we just passed 40, and the Stanford center is on the board. Who takes him? Are you guys familiar with him?
Yeah, that was the guy that we were talking about in the group chat today, right? The
Oh, was
7'1"
okay.
guy.
Yes. Maybe the Celtics take him, but if not, maybe they trade back again.
Yeah, I
but-
think he averaged like 20 and 10. That's what
Oh, wow.
John, were you
Okay.
talking about him?
Yeah, the French dude.
Maybe he's just not NBA ready, is what people are thinking. But hopefully the Celtics take him. They'll be wrong. But
I hope
all right, yeah,
draft RJ Lewis.
I hope so too.
That'd be so awesome.
No, the vibes would be immaculate in this house. But unfortunately, if we were to wait for pick 46, I think it would be like another half hour, which I don't think we can. I don't think we have enough content to eat that up. But yeah, either way, I'll definitely be making a video on it and posting on TikTok. So I don't know what my schedule is yet. I do know that next week we will not have a pod at a regular time. We will be in Flushing, Queens to watch the New York Metropolitans. So we have that. We will also be in Pittsburgh this weekend. So I'm hoping that we do a pod before then. I'm thinking I don't know who does Mondays, but I'm thinking that we can do a live pod free agency on Monday nights. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. I have to check with our producer Sports Fluent to see if we can do that. I do think it's a possibility though. But either way, yeah, we'll record sometime next week. I don't know what day it's going to be, but it's not going to be Thursday or this weekend, but we'll see. Probably Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. All right, cool. Yeah, great episode, John Matt. Thanks for coming on. But until then, this has been another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at All American Hooper on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram and TikTok spelled differently, and then on Twitter at American Hooper. Check out some additional content on Sunday nights. We go live. Sports Fluence, Ori B, and Jalen Carter Music and I. 10 p.m. I should be back by then. And then obviously subscribe to at Sports Fluent to catch every episode at Thursdays at 8 o'clock, just not next week. But this has been another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. Until next time, keep grinding, stay hooping. Have a good night, everyone.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
No, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.